Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Yammy Noob. Today I'm going to be explaining to you guys how to get into MotoGP. In case you didn't know, I am a massive racing fan. You may have seen me talk about it on the Yamcast. I might have hinted to it here and there, but I am a big fan of racing. I watch MotoGP, World Superbike, I keep up with Moto America. Anything motorcycle road racing, I love and really like to consume. I gobble up all that sweet content, just like many of you at home do. But I've seen many comments on the Yamcast that we've been covering racing news in a little bit more of a deeper way. People are asking, Yammy, how do I get into MotoGP? How do I get into watching this? How do I learn all these different teams and names and all the stuff that's happening around the paddock? What even is a paddock? What's going on? Help me out here. So in today's video, I'm gonna teach you guys how you can get into MotoGP, and it's actually a lot simpler than you think. Let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do for MotoGP is to just simply get the MotoGP Video Pass. You can go to MotoGP.com and you can sign up for their Video Pass. And in fact, if you do it right now, you're going to get a huge discount because the season's starting to come to a close. And the best part about it is you can actually watch all of the old races going back to like 1992. Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. There's actually been many times during the off season where I'm bored and I'll literally just watch an entire old year of racing just to get caught up. I remember I watched the 2006 racing season one year just because I wanted to see what happened with Valentino Rossi and Nicky Hayden, because I actually did not watch MotoGP back then in 2006. I started watching back in like 2015. Which was a crazy time to join up and watch MotoGP. That's a great year for y'all at home if you want to go back and watch a fantastic year and a super dramatic year of racing. MotoGP 2015 was the best one. But all you got to do is just sign up for the Video Pass app and then just start watching it. I know that sounds kind of silly, but if you start immersing yourself in it, you can really start getting closer to what's happening with the teams and the riders and the racers, and you'll start picking up the storylines. But let's go over a traditional kind of race weekend and what happens. So on Fridays, if you have the MotoGP video app, you'll get access to the free practice sessions, the interviews, all the great stuff that you got in behind the scenes. And I just want to point this out, MotoGP or Dorna did not pay me to make this video. I'm just making it as a fan, and I like what they do. But watching free practice is a really great way to get intel on everything else that's kind of happening behind the scenes with MotoGP. I usually try to catch at least free practice 1 and 2. I'll usually put it on in the background while I'm doing something else. I like to listen to it more than just watch the sessions. It is cool to see the guys elbow down and ripping through the tracks, but for free practice, for me, I just kind of watch it and listen to it and just kind of gather some intel about what's going on. You know, is a new manufacturer trying a new part on their bike, or is there some drama going on with somebody not being able to get their times up? Is somebody not going to make it to qualifying? That's going to be a really cool thing you can do. The format is changing a little bit for 2023, but normally on Saturdays you have the qualifying session, and qualifying determines the grid positions for the riders, which is really important. So who's going to be on pole position, who was able to get the fastest lap time on that given day, and who is going to be in the pecking order out of the gate on Sundays. Now, as I mentioned, the format's changing a little bit in 2023. We're going to have what's going to be called sprint racing. So on Saturdays, there's going to have a half race distance race, about 12 or 13 laps or so, depending on the circuit, where you're going to have half of the points on offer as well. So traditionally, you race on Sunday, you can, get between 25 points or 0 points, depending on where you finish. But for sprint races, it's going to be awarded, I think, between 12 down to 1 point or 0 points, all the way on that qualifying. That counts from Saturday as well. So a little bit of a change in format, but historically it's always been Fridays practice, Saturdays qualifying, Sundays racing. So all you got to do is really just start watching it. You'll be amazed at how much you start picking up just by watching the racing, watching the qualifying, and watching the free practices. There's tons of other really great content that MotoGP puts out. There's Tech Talks with Simon Crafar, who's a really great reporter over there, and correspondent that MotoGP has. There's interviews with the riders, there's the press conferences. You can go really, really deep with this if you want to. I myself go really, really deep with it because I really love MotoGP and I love the drama and the fact that it's the absolute premier elite class of motorcycle racing. It's really, really cool. But there are some things about MotoGP that may make you want to start watching other forms of racing as well, too. And one of those big ones is World Superbike. World Superbike is really, really cool. The racing in World Superbike right now is, in my opinion, second to none. I really think the racing in World Superbike is actually better than MotoGP most weekends because there isn't all of the aerodynamic elements on the motorcycles from MotoGP. Right now, MotoGP is kind of becoming a two-wheeled F1 where there's a lot of drama and controversy going on with this right now, but there's difficulty in passing with these motorcycles because of the turbulence they create with all the winglets and the aero effects. And in World Superbike, because the bikes are based on production-based machines like R1s and Kawasaki ZX-10s and Panigale V4Rs, you don't have as much of that craziness of turbulence and aerodynamics, and so the racing's actually really, really good. It's a very dramatic season right now, too, with three really strong title contenders in the form of Alvaro Bautista, Jonathan Rea, and Toprak Razgatlioglu, who you may have heard of. He's a fantastic rider, really, really talented guy from Yamaha. He does all kinds of crazy stuff with his motorcycle, pulling these crazy stoppies into braking zones, and just the aggression he has under braking is just really fantastic. World Superbike is really cool, but the thing with World Superbike is they don't race as much as MotoGP. MotoGP has, I think for 2023, they're going to 22 or 24 races in the year, which is just, it's a lot of racing. And World Superbike probably has about half as much. However, World Superbike does double the races every weekend. They actually do a race 1 on Saturday and race 2 on Sunday, along with the Super Pole race as well. So lots of action to watch in World Superbike on a given weekend, but not as many different circuits. Beyond that, if you want to get really, really deep into MotoGP, there's several podcasts I would recommend as well. One of them obviously is the Yamcast. We are producing MotoGP related coverage now on this channel, and I'm really, really excited about that because it's something I'm super passionate about and want to talk about. But there are other much more on the ground type of podcasts you can listen to. One of my favorites is actually by The Race. It's the MotoGP podcast by The Race. They put it out every Monday after the races that happen on Sunday. Really great group of guys there. You have Valentin Harunci, Simon Patterson, and Toby Moody. All three of those with tons of MotoGP knowledge and insight. And it's actually where I get a lot of my intel for what I understand from MotoGP. Really, really good podcast. You can also listen to, I believe it's called the Crash.net's podcast. They're pretty good as well. But I do think that The Race is a little bit better. But I really think that if you watch free practice, watch qualifying, watch the racing, and listen to maybe 1 or 2 podcasts about MotoGP, man, you'll start really picking up stuff really fast. The main things you need to know are, there's these storylines and threads in MotoGP that you can start picking out. For example, Marc Marquez, 8-time world champion, recently had his arm operated on, is now back in action, got a pole position in Motegi, which was pretty cool. There's all this stuff that around these riders that's really exciting. You have Fabio Quartararo, the new kind of superstar on the block. Is he going to make a 2-time world champion out of himself? That would be pretty amazing. You have Pecco Bagnaia, the Ducati rider, who's super fast, but is a little, kind of a coin flip on whether or not he's going to finish a race. You have up-and-coming stars like Enea Bastianini, who's going to move into the factory Ducati squad. Jack Miller, the lovable Australian, who's moving over to KTM. There's so many fun and interesting characters and storylines to follow in MotoGP, which really makes it, in my opinion. And the racing is really, really cool. So if you guys haven't yet, I really highly recommend you get into MotoGP, you get into racing, you get into watching the stuff because it's really important to support it. A lot of people have done a lot of think pieces about this, but with the absence of Valentino Rossi in MotoGP, he retired in 2021, as many of you may know. It became a little harder to get people to get into it. We're missing that breakout superstar, charismatic person in the paddock right now. Everybody's kind of this really buttoned up professional rider. And we need more of those kind of all killer, no filler, charismatic characters in GP to create the drama and create the show. I mean, Valentino Rossi was many people's heroes, myself included. He is my hero. He's quite a guy. But I really believe that as we nurture this new talent in MotoGP, we'll start to see these new stars emerge. And there's definitely an up-and-coming star in the lower category right now in Moto2, Pedro Acosta. Keep an eye out for him. I really believe that in 2024 and beyond, that guy's going to make a big, big name for himself. But time will tell. But yeah, guys, I hope this kind of helped you get into the mindset of how you can get into MotoGP a little bit. I know it can be a little intimidating looking at all the terminology and the teams and the history and the riders and the numbers and the qualifying and the racing, but it's actually much more simple than you think to get into it and to really consume this content. It's not that big of a barrier to entry. And I will say, if you sign up for the MotoGP Pass, I know it's a little expensive. It sounds like it's expensive. I think it's $100 and something for the year, but believe me when I say this, it is well worth the price. You're getting so much high quality content on demand, on any device, on your TV, on your phone, on your laptop, anywhere you want. I really, really think it's worth the money. I know it's maybe not as cheap as a Netflix subscription, but I think you get a whole lot more value out of a MotoGP video pass than a freaking Netflix subscription. So maybe just cut yourself one of your subscriptions and get yourself MotoGP, because it's a pretty sweet deal. But that's going to wrap up my thoughts on that. What do you guys think? Are you an avid MotoGP fan? Are you trying to get more into the sport? I'd love if you watch the Yamcast and you start, getting more into GP and racing. Hopefully I can get you guys more excited about that, because I am super, super stoked on it. And it's a big part of my life. And it dominates most of my Sundays with my fiance. She begrudgingly, maybe not so begrudgingly, watches MotoGP with me every Sunday. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching the video. Head over to MotoGP and get their video pass. Again, I was not promoted or bought to say that. I just really think it's a cool thing and you should get into it. But thanks so much for watching. See you later. Well, look at you. You've made it to the end of another Yami Noob video. You should consider yourself pretty lucky, because I have curated this one right over here for you to continue watching. It's probably just as good as the one you just saw. Unless you hated the one you just saw. I don't know, maybe leave me a comment down below about how much you hated it as well too. Or just keep watching this one. Make sure you keep watching Yami Noob. Don't forget to keep watching Yami Noob. That's the most important thing. Keep watching Yami Noob.